Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 415, Rough, Tough, Jigglypuff. The episode begins with Ash and the gang still on their way to Ash's next Battle Frontier facility, the Battle Arena, walking through a forest trail, when suddenly they found themselves caught up in a net that was suspended in a tree. As you would expect, Ash and the gang immediately thought that Team Rocket was the culprit, and they yell out angrily at them while squirming around in the net, trying to break free. Although Team Rocket didn't reveal themselves and do their motto, Rock began to suspect that maybe something else had captured them in the net, and this was confirmed when, much to Ash, Max, and May's surprise, because they still thought Team Rocket was responsible, a Loudred appeared. The Loudred then calls out to his trainer, and the trainer rushes over out of the bushes where he was, and apologizes, introducing himself as Mitch, and explaining that the net trap was meant for someone else. To fully cement his apology, Mitch gets Ash and the gang down from the tree and out of the net, and decides to bring them to his little cabin with a pink roof. And he even gives them tea. Mitch, then wanting to prove that he wasn't a rude guy, decided to identify himself to them by giving his business card. Much to Ash and the gang's surprise, the business card reveals his full name as Mitch Mitchum, fucking awesome name, and it also reveals that Mitch was a professional Pokeblock taster. May was obviously intrigued by this, but before she could ask for more details, Mitch introduced his Loudred. May was intrigued by his Loudred as well, so she scanned it with her Pokedex to learn more about it. When Brock analyzed it, he stated that the Loudred looked really healthy and happy, and Mitch thanked Brock for these compliments. Mitch then admits that his Loudred may have been particularly happy because of the Pokeblocks that he fed it, and he showed these Pokeblocks to Brock and everyone else, and stated that he would let Ash and the gang's Pokemon try some of the Pokeblock he fed Loudred to make up for the whole situation with the net earlier, apologizing again, also adding that this Pokeblock was designed by the company that he worked at, because, he was a professional Pokeblock taster and all that. Also, it was a newly made Pokeblock, which made me excited because that meant that her Pokemon had never tried it before. Without further ado, Ash and the gang sent out all of their Pokemon, and they went outside the cabin to do this, with Ash sending out Phanpy, Grovyle, Corphish, and Swellow, Brock sending out Fortress and Mudkip, and May sending out Combuskin, Munchlax, and Squirtle. All of the Pokemon very much enjoyed these Pokeblocks, and Brock complimented that these Pokeblocks must have been very well made, leading Mitch to thank him for this compliment. While the Pokemon continue eating, Mitch mentions that this Pokeblock was the last product that he worked on before he left the Pokeblock company that he was a taste tester at, revealing that he had actually left the Pokeblock company. Knowing this, Ash asks Mitch why he left the company in the first place, and why he set that fucking net trap, although Mitch wasn't answering at all, instead just staying silent, almost as if he was embarrassed to reveal the reason. Before Ash could press for an answer, all the Pokemon, with the exception of Munchlax, who was still happily chowing down on all the Pokeblocks, started to get nervous and tense up, having sensed something approaching from some bushes. And Ash and the gang knew this because they saw all the Pokemon looking directly at the bushes, and they then saw the bushes rustle. The sound of the bushes rustling then got louder and louder and louder, as everyone just waited for the thing that was in the bushes to reveal themselves, and eventually the thing in the bushes did. It was none other than a fucking Jigglypuff. All the Pokemon were against the cabin wall at this point, along with Ash and the gang, and just observed the Jigglypuff, while May commented on how cute it was, although Mitch, on the other hand, said that he would handle it and challenge it to a battle, ordering his Loudred to use Mega Punch. The Mega Punch hits pretty strongly, with Max even commenting on how strong the hit was, and it sends Jigglypuff flying back, but Jigglypuff simply bounces off the tree that it was sent into, and carefully lands on 2 feet, as if nothing had happened, amazing Ash and Brock at how it had recovered so fast. Mitch then tries to have his Loudred use a hyper voice, but Loudred doesn't even move. In fact, Loudred seemed to be in love with Jigglypuff. May, Ash, and Max were confused by what happened, although Brock explained that Jigglypuff had the ability Q-Charm, at least some of them did, and when Mitch heard this, even he was surprised, not having known about this ability. But basically, this Q-Charm ability made any Pokemon that interacted with Jigglypuff sexually attracted to it. When Jigglypuff saw how in love Loudred was with it, it just laughed mischievously, and unleashed a flamethrower attack, much to Ash and the gang and Mitch's surprise. They didn't know Jigglypuff could use that attack. Ash and the gang and Mitch were even more shocked when this flamethrower was strong enough to burn every single one of them, including the poor Loudred. Jigglypuff immediately follows this up by using Sing, putting everyone asleep, except for the still sexually attracted to it Loudred. As everyone just laid there, unconscious, this made Jigglypuff laugh immensely before running off into the bushes. At first, Loudred was depressed by this, as it didn't want the Pokemon that it had a crush on to leave, but actually, once Jigglypuff was far enough away, this rendered the effects of Jigglypuff's ability useless, so Loudred was no longer in love with Jigglypuff. So, now that it regained its mind, when it saw that Mitch was asleep, it decided to wake him up, with Mitch being his trainer and all, because he didn't want to be alone. As soon as Mitch caught up, he immediately looked around for Jigglypuff, seemingly really wanting it. Although Loudred knew that Jigglypuff was gone, so he tried to apologize to Mitch, saying that if he didn't get out of control and accidentally become infatuated by Jigglypuff, then he could have perhaps, dealt with Jigglypuff. But Mitch wasn't mad at Loudred, he was just mad at the whole situation, as he screamed in frustration at the fact that he had failed to capture it, revealing that he had failed to capture it many goddamn times. So he clearly wanted to catch this Jigglypuff for some reason, but he just couldn't. Hearing Mitch's frustration, Jigglypuff, who was in the bushes, laughed immensely, although it did a pretty silent laugh, so Mitch couldn't hear it. Meanwhile, as for Team Rocket, They had been spying on Ash and the gang, as usual, so of course, they spotted Jigglypuff from their Meowth balloon, where they were spying with their binoculars. Obviously, Team Rocket wanted to capture Jigglypuff. Jessie wanted to capture it to add to their team, because she thought Jigglypuff was cute, but Meowth, on the other hand, thought that they should catch Jigglypuff for Giovanni, and went into a little boss fantasy about what Giovanni could use Jigglypuff for, imagining Giovanni using it for decoration, for exercise, and for putting him to sleep. Specifically, Giovanni could use it as an exercise ball, and Jigglypuff could sing to put him to sleep. And with Jigglypuff's round nature, it could serve as a decoration or ornament, because those were usually round. Team Rocket then did a cheer at the thought of making Giovanni happy and potentially getting promoted, as usual, and Wobbuffet and Chimecho popped out their Pokeballs to join in on this cheer. Meanwhile, back at the cabin, it seems as though Mitch screaming about how he wanted to capture Jigglypuff had woke up Ash and the gang, so Mitch explained how he wanted to capture Jigglypuff and wanted to find it. So, Ash and the gang instructed all their Pokemon to stand outside the cabin in various places, along with Mitch's Loudred, so that they could look for Jigglypuff if it showed up outside the cabin. Grovyle and Combustion were perched on both ends of the roof of the cabin, while Swellow flew overhead. Loudred and Mudkip were on the ground, using their enhanced hearing to listen for Jigglypuff. Because, Loudred obviously had enhanced hearing because it was a sound Pokemon, while Mudkip could use its radar-like fin. The other Pokemon were out as well, but they weren't really doing that much. Inside the cabin, Mitch and Ash and the gang were basically letting the Pokemon do all the work, because they were just chilling in the cabin, with Mitch even offering Ash and the gang some hot chocolate. Ash and the gang were about to ask Mitch why he was so interested in catching the Jigglypuff in the first place, when suddenly May spotted a picture of Mitch with a woman and a young girl, and May asked if that was Mitch's family, and Mitch confirms this, adding that the picture was him with his wife and daughter. His wife's name was Rikako, while his daughter's name was Lisa. The reason why one of the names is Japanese and one sounds more English is because his wife's name was never actually localized in English, but his daughter's was, so yeah, that explains that. Anyways, Mitch then clarified that his daughter Lisa was the reason why he was looking for the Jigglypuff, explaining that it was going to be her 5th birthday soon. And we then see a flashback of Mitch at home with a much more professional looking outfit on, because it was back when he worked with his company. And he was bending down to his daughter Lisa, who excitedly told him that she would like more than anything for him to bring her back a Jigglypuff for her 5th birthday. Although Mitch had to go on a business trip, he really wanted to make his daughter happy, so he went to the Pokeblock making factory that he worked at and told his boss that he needed to go to look for a Jigglypuff for his daughter, and because of that, his boss gave him leave. Damn, that's a pretty nice boss, but anyways, now that Mitch didn't have to work, he went into the woods to find a Jigglypuff, since he knew that Jigglypuff lived in the woods relatively nearby. Though Mitch then added that he had been searching for Jigglypuff for 6 goddamn months, so he hadn't seen his family for 6 months. Mitch clarified, though, that he hadn't really been searching for Jigglypuff for 6 months, because he had found the same Jigglypuff from earlier, almost as soon as he arrived in the forest. But being an amateur trainer, because, he wasn't actually a trainer, he just gave Pokemon Pokeblocks, he didn't know that you had to weaken a Pokemon before you caught it. So he simply just threw Pokeball after Pokeball after Pokeball at it, although Jigglypuff easily dodged all of the Pokeballs. Mitch eventually threw so many Pokeballs that he got tired and almost passed out, also developing a whole pile of missed Pokeballs. And Mitch added that another reason why he was struggling to catch Jigglypuff was because Jigglypuff kept putting him to sleep with Sing all the time. And Jigglypuff had just continued to do this, and that was precisely why Mitch couldn't catch it after all this time. Mitch admitted that eventually he went back to his cabin and he read a little book that he happened to have stored in his cabin somehow. Maybe he found it in the woods, I don't know. That basically explained to him that you had to weaken a Pokemon to catch it, and therefore Mitch knew that he had to catch a Pokemon first to battle the Jigglypuff to weaken it. So he read another section of the book on how to train up a Pokemon, so he managed to find a Loudred and capture that relatively easily by reading some additional tips that the book had on befriending Pokemon. So this gave Mitch an idea to actually, first, before weakening Jigglypuff, just trying to talk to Jigglypuff and get it to come with him, like he did to Loudred, but Jigglypuff would just keep running away, so Mitch couldn't talk to it in time. Or even if he could, Jigglypuff just would tune it all out. So this led Mitch to go by the books yet again and train up his Loudred so it could master its attacks and its soundproof ability, which allowed it to be immune to Jigglypuff's singing, so it couldn't fall asleep. But even after mastering Loudred's attacks and its soundproof ability, Jigglypuff had continued to outsmart him and run away, and the flashback then ends, with Mitch declaring that he still needed to capture Jigglypuff to this very day. May questioned how long Mitch was going to keep up this search for Jigglypuff if he wasn't able to catch it, with Ash and the gang surprised to hear that Mitch was originally going to go home tomorrow, because tomorrow was his daughter's birthday. But he just couldn't bring himself to go home without getting a Jigglypuff for her, because he had promised her a Jigglypuff. So he had already written a letter home to his daughter Lisa that he wasn't going to be home for her birthday, because he promised to get her a Jigglypuff, and basically told his daughter that he would only come back once he got a Jigglypuff for her. Seeing how bad Mitch felt about not being able to get Jigglypuff and missing his daughter's birthday, and also because they felt sympathy because Mitch had been looking for Jigglypuff for so goddamn long, they decided to help Mitch catch Jigglypuff, leading Mitch to thank them immensely for their assistance. Thanking Ash first, because he was the one who initially suggested that humans help, not just their Pokemon, and then May, Max, and Brock agreed shortly after. Meanwhile, Team Rocket was listening in on Ash and the gang and Mitch's conversation, because they had hooked up some audio equipment to somewhere near Mitch's cabin, so they were able to hear everything. So they listened intently while eating rice balls. Meowth then revealed that he was kind of disappointed that the Jigglypuff that Mitch was talking about didn't seem to be one that drew on people's faces after putting them to sleep. Obviously referring to the Jigglypuff from earlier on in the series that would always come back and draw on people's faces and shit. This Jigglypuff was not that one, but Meowth kind of wished it was because he wanted payback on it, and he wanted to capture it. However, Meowth eventually put this desire aside, realizing that they could just catch this Jigglypuff too, and it wouldn't really affect much. It could still give this one to Giovanni, and if anything, this one would be better for Giovanni because it wouldn't annoy him by drawing shit on his face. Suddenly, when Meowth went to go put his hand into his picnic basket to retrieve another rice ball, he got startled when he instead grabbed Jigglypuff, who had invaded his picnic basket, really wanting a rice ball. Once Meowth had recovered from how startled he was, he and Jessie and James immediately went to go grab it, but despite Team Rocket moving fast, they were stopped in their tracks when Jigglypuff used flamethrower on them, burning them immensely, leading James to comment that the Jigglypuff was stronger than it looked. But regardless, Team Rocket just recovers from their burns and falling on each other as they rush at it again to grab it. Although it took a little while for Team Rocket to get up because of how badly they were burned and how they fell on each other, but once they did, they were stopped once again as Jigglypuff used Sing. So this put Jessie, James, Meowth, and Wobbuffet, who had forcibly popped out of his Pokeball, to sleep. Team Rocket tried desperately to stay awake, but they just couldn't, with Meowth being the last one to fall asleep, just after Wobbuffet, who even pulled out a pillow and nightcap to sleep with. While Team Rocket was sleeping, Loudred and Mudkip's enhanced hearing allowed them to hear the singing, and they quickly went inside the cabin to alert Ash and the gang and Mitch so that they could go to where Jigglypuff was located. And Swellow joined as well, flying in the direction of the singing, when Mudkip and Loudred led Swellow to it. In addition to Ash and the gang. So basically Ash and the gang, Loudred, Mudkip, and Swellow all went over to Jigglypuff. And right as Ash and the gang and Mitch arrived with Mudkip, Loudred, and Swellow, they spotted Jigglypuff starting to eat rice balls from the picnic basket. The first Pokemon that Jigglypuff noticed was Swellow flying above, followed by Ash and the gang. Mitch then declared that he wanted to challenge Jigglypuff to a battle again, and Ash joined in to help, telling Pikachu to get ready to challenge Jigglypuff, and he declared to Jigglypuff that he wanted to challenge it as well, and Jigglypuff seemingly accepted, wanting to see if Mitch and Ash could actually amuse it and put up a decent fight. So, the battle was about to begin. Ash and Pikachu, and Mitch and Loudred versus Jigglypuff. Although, before either Ash or Mitch could order an attack, Max warned Ash and Mitch not to attack directly, with Brock saying that the reason why Max was suggesting this was because Max thought that Mitch or Ash should use an indirect attack, with Brock specifically suggesting that Mitch has his Loudred know one of its signature moves, Uproar, which would render Sing ineffective. So, Mitch does this, having his Loudred use Uproar, and unbeknownst to Jigglypuff, this makes it unable to sing. Although Jigglypuff just smiled and laughed, not knowing this, thinking that the attack did nothing to it. However, while Jigglypuff was laughing, this meant Jigglypuff was distracted, so Ash took the opportunity to have Pikachu use Thunderbolt now, since Max and Brock thought that it was good to use physical attacks now that the Uproar had been used. Much to everyone's surprise though, Jigglypuff jumped high into the air and used its balloon-like body to stay floating in the air, basically flying, and then it comes down hard, using a rollout to attack Pikachu, and before Ash or Pikachu could react, Jigglypuff rolls into Pikachu not once, but twice, sending Pikachu flying the second time, because Pikachu wasn't prepared for 2 in a row. So like basically, Jigglypuff hit it once, and then rolled around, and then hit Pikachu again. Thankfully, before Pikachu actually hit the ground when it went flying, Ash was able to catch it and make sure it was alright, leaving Max and Brock relieved that Pikachu was alright. Regardless though, Jigglypuff continued to use Rollout, though not at Pikachu this time. This time, it hit Team Rocket, sending the still asleep Team Rocket flying. James and Jessie just land elsewhere on the ground, whereas Meowth and Wobbuffet land in Loudred's ears, but either way, all 4 of them wake up. Ash and the gang was so focused on Jigglypuff before that they didn't even notice Team Rocket, and they knew that Team Rocket was likely up to no good, perhaps wanting to capture the Jigglypuff for themselves. So they quickly went and confronted Team Rocket to ask what the fuck they were doing, leading Team Rocket to start their motto. Well, at least James and Jessie anyway, because Wobbuffet and Meowth kind of couldn't, because they were in Loudred's ears. But anyways, Jessie and James couldn't even reach the second line of their motto before Mitch interrupted them, happily introducing himself and giving them his business cards, believing that Team Rocket were actually Ash and the gang's friends, and that's why they agreed with each other. So he figured that if they were Ash and the gang's friends, then he might as well give away his business card to them, if he gave his business card to Ash and the gang. Just then, Loudred, who was annoyed by having Meowth and Wobbuffet stuck in its ears, forcibly pushed them out with all of its might, and a huge yell, which activated its ears to push them out, and Meowth and Wobbuffet went flying into Jessie and James, and as a result, all of Team Rocket went blasting off. While they were being blasted off, Team Rocket tried to finish their motto, but they hit the ground, crashing somewhere else before they were able to finish. Also, while Team Rocket was being blasted off, Jigglypuff taunted Team Rocket, giggling as it waved goodbye to them, and Ash and the gang realized that it was distracted, so Ash declared that it was the perfect time to catch Jigglypuff. But as Ash pulled out a Pokeball to do so, Max stopped Ash, reminding him that that was Mitch's job. However, Mitch was so shocked by the fact that he actually now had a chance to capture Jigglypuff that he wasn't even doing anything. May warned that someone at least had to do something before it got away, saying that Ash could at least catch it and then give it to Mitch later. So Ash decided to send out Rovile to weaken Jigglypuff further now, but before Ash could do this, Jigglypuff immediately ran away into the bushes, giggling at Ash and the gang as a way to make fun of them. Ash started to give chase to Jigglypuff, but Brock stopped Ash, suggesting that they should try luring Jigglypuff into a trap by outsmarting it, as opposed to just running after it, since running after it and battling it clearly didn't work very well, because they were defeated in battle. Mitch was a little skeptical about the trap idea, reminding Ash and the gang how he had set a trap before, revealing that that trap was for Jigglypuff, and that trap didn't work, although Brock assured Mitch that this would work. He had a different idea for a trap, and he proceeded to place a bowl of his own custom-made Pokemon food outside the door to Mitch's cabin, and then he hid in the bushes with Mitch, May, Ash, and Max, waiting for Jigglypuff to show up and eat the food, taking the bait. Mitch wasn't sure this idea would work still, but Brock said that as an experienced breeder, he could guarantee that Jigglypuff would love his food, and it would give them a chance to catch it. Mitch believed Brock, but just then, Jigglypuff came up to the bowl of food, and it took a sniff, and much to everyone's surprise and Brock's dismay, Jigglypuff hated the smell of the food, and as Brock had a quiet mental breakdown, Jigglypuff walked away from the food. Before Jigglypuff could get away, though, May got an idea, saying it was now time to try her custom-made Pokeblocks, to see if Jigglypuff would like those, adding that she told Professor Oak about them, and he said that it reminded him of the Pokeblock that he made for Snorlax to make it full easier, and he basically complimented it to no end. So May was riding high regarding her Pokeblocks, and she thought they were super awesome. So May grabbed one of her Pokeblocks and held it out for Jigglypuff to eat, going up to it, but right before Jigglypuff could take it, we wouldn't know if it actually liked it, because Munchlax, being the hungry bastard that it was, took it away immediately and ate it in one gulp. May was initially confused, not knowing what happened, but when she saw that Munchlax had eaten it, she got extremely frustrated, and only got more frustrated when Munchlax burped and Jigglypuff laughed, taunting Ash and the gang for their miserable failure. A frustrated Ash and the gang and Mitch returned behind the bushes to come up with a new plan, and eventually Max figures out a plan, suggesting that they put Jigglypuff to sleep since it wouldn't be able to resist being captured, and after thinking in more detail, he was able to come up with a full plan as to how to get Jigglypuff asleep, saying that they could use Jigglypuff's sing against it. May, of course, had to be the skeptical older sister, but Max assured her that his plan would work wonders, and he then put his plan into action. So, the plan went like this. Ash and the gang and Mitch went back to Mitch's cabin and went inside. Once inside, Ash and the gang and Mitch did some renovating to the cabin, adding a special room, but after this, they went with the next part of the plan, coming out of the cabin and speaking really loudly, making sure Jigglypuff could hear, in hopes that Jigglypuff would come over. So, Mitch loudly declared that he wanted to challenge Jigglypuff to a battle, but Jigglypuff didn't arrive, so Mitch became skeptical that Jigglypuff would come back, but Ash simply gave Mitch some encouragement, telling him that Lisa was going to be really happy with her new Jigglypuff. Mitch thanked Ash for the encouragement, and he yelled even louder that he wanted to challenge Jigglypuff to a battle. It's revealed that Jigglypuff had heard the first call. It was just being stubborn, but now it was getting a bit annoyed with the yelling, so it popped out of the bushes, eager to kick Mitch's ass. Mitch begged to differ, though, as he sent in his Loudred and told it to use Hyper Voice, and Loudred did so as Ash opened the door to the cabin, holding it open. Ash then stated his assumption that Jigglypuff would probably try and negate the effects of the Hyper Voice before it really affected it that much by using Rollout to escape it, and sure enough, Jigglypuff did use Rollout, going straight towards Loudred. Although the last second before Loudred was hit, Loudred jumped out of the way, but Jigglypuff couldn't stop itself from rolling at this point, and it ended up rolling straight into the cabin that had its door open. Ash and Brock then shut the door, effectively trapping Jigglypuff inside the cabin, so Ash and the gang and Mitch cheered as the first part of their plan had worked. Ash then knew that the second part of the plan was all up to Pikachu, and he wished it luck, even though Pikachu couldn't hear him, as he was also inside the cabin. Anyways, inside the cabin, Jigglypuff finally stopped rolling and looked around in confusion as it noticed its surroundings. A metal-clad room, a room entirely made out of metal. This was the renovation that Ash and the gang and Mitch had made to the cabin. Jigglypuff simply looked around the room in confusion as its voice echoed in the new metal room. Hint, hint. Just then, it was revealed that Pikachu was, of course, in the room and appeared behind Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff then saw Pikachu charge up its cheeks, getting ready for a Thunderbolt, and Jigglypuff was more than ready to fight back. Pikachu then fired off this Thunderbolt, and Jigglypuff was able to dodge. The Thunderbolt then ricocheted off the metal wall, but Jigglypuff dodged this as well. Jigglypuff then continues to dodge even more ricocheting Thunderbolts until it decides to fight back with a Flamethrower, although Pikachu dodges this. But the Flamethrower ends up ricocheting off the metal walls as well, but both Jigglypuff and Pikachu dodge the ricocheting Flamethrower continuously. While this was going on, Ash and gang were watching from a window along with Mitch, hoping that Pikachu could not get hit long enough for their plan to work. Pikachu then fired off more Thunderbolts, but Jigglypuff then just continued to dodge all these ricocheting Thunderbolts that were bouncing off the wall, as Jigglypuff bounced off walls as well, and eventually it slammed into Pikachu, tackling it. Pikachu uses a tackle as well, though, so Jigglypuff and Pikachu just end up crashing into each other, and they both land on the floor, uninjured. Jigglypuff was frustrated at this, as he really wanted to take Pikachu out, so it decided to go for a sing to put Pikachu asleep, while Ash and the gang and Mitch eagerly watched from the window, and Max bragged a bit, since this was his entire idea. Back inside the cabin, Pikachu tried to resist being put asleep, but it couldn't, since the sing attack was echoing off the metal walls, going all throughout the entire room. Eventually, Pikachu succumbs to sleep, but much to Jigglypuff's shock, it falls asleep as well, because that was Max's plan. Basically, they built a metal wall, since the sing would reflect off of it, and it would end up reflecting through the entire room, and that would obviously affect Jigglypuff as well. Ash and the gang and Mitch had been watching intently, and they cheered, seeing that their plan had worked, and they went into the cabin as Ash woke up Pikachu to inform it that it had done its job, and they had all succeeded in making Jigglypuff fall asleep, and Pikachu saw this. Brock then told Mitch that now that Jigglypuff was asleep, it was his chance to catch it, so Mitch held up the Pokeball. But after all this effort, Mitch paused for a long time, simply watching Jigglypuff snore peacefully. May and Brock thought that something was wrong, and asked what it was, as Mitch just said that he wasn't gonna catch the Jigglypuff. After this whole fucking filler episode, this whole fucking annoying filler episode, he wasn't even gonna catch the Jigglypuff. Now, what was his justification? He basically said that since Jigglypuff fought so hard to not get caught, it must not want to get caught, and he didn't feel right catching it when he didn't have the chance to fight back. And also, he thought that since Jigglypuff was born to be a wild Pokemon in the forest, and enjoyed being in the forest, he was better off to let it live in the forest. Ash and the gang were concerned that his daughter Lisa would be disappointed not to get a Jigglypuff, but Mitch just declared that he needed to teach his daughter that she couldn't have everything that she wanted. Though, it's not like he was going to get her something that she would absolutely despise. He just wanted to teach her that sometimes in life, you didn't get everything that you wanted. So, he was going to give her his Loudred instead, since it's not like he was a trainer, so he didn't really need it, so he felt that his daughter could make use of it. And he figured that his daughter would like it well enough. Loudred, hearing that it would be given to Mitch's daughter, seemed to like this idea, so it was cemented. Loudred would be Lisa's birthday gift. So, with that, Ash and Gang and Mitch took one last look at the sleeping Jigglypuff and left the cabin and the woods, going back into Mitch's hometown. Later that night, though, while Ash and the gang were still on their way back to the town, Jigglypuff woke up still in the metal room, finding out that everyone was gone. But Jigglypuff then saw that Brock had left it a pile of Pokémon food for it, in a bowl that was practically overflowing. Basically, it was Mitch's way of giving it a parting gift. He told Brock to leave it some of his food, and Brock hardly agreed because he wanted to see if Jigglypuff would come around to his food, because basically everyone else loved his food. Unfortunately, though, Jigglypuff was disappointed. It may not have been because of the food, though. It actually seemed to be because of something else. Anyways, we'll get to that later. The next morning, Ash and the gang and Mitch arrived at his house, first coming to his front lawn, where he greeted his wife, who was out watering the front lawn with a hose, and obviously very shocked to see Mitch after 6 months. Just then, Mitch's daughter Lisa came out as well, and greeted her father, excited to see him after all this time, and eagerly asking if he had managed to catch a Jigglypuff and where it was, although Mitch confirms that he wasn't able to keep his promise and catch a Jigglypuff, which made Lisa disappointed a bit. Ash and the gang hated to see a sad kid, so they comforted her a bit, but it actually appeared that Lisa wasn't that sad. She got over it pretty quick, saying that really Jigglypuff wasn't what really mattered to her at the end of the day. That's what she realized while her father was gone. She realized that she cared about her father more than anything, and was just happy that her father made it home on the day of her birthday. And she got even happier when Mitch revealed that he did still get her a gift, being a Loudred, and states all the exciting things she was going to play with Loudred as she thanks her father. Her father, Mitch, was very touched and hugged his daughter, crying with happiness to finally see her again. Just then, though, Ash and the gang, Mitch, and his wife and his daughter were all alerted to the sound of a furious cry, and they look up to see Jigglypuff in the sky, floating their way, and looking and sounding quite annoyed. And it then landed on the ground. Basically, Jigglypuff had went into its little balloon form to inflate itself and float all the way to Mitch's house, angry that Mitch had abandoned it in the woods. Lisa was absolutely overjoyed to see a Jigglypuff, while Ash and the gang were just wondering why the fuck Jigglypuff had followed them, leading Brock to figure out first that Jigglypuff did want to be captured after all. Mitch asked Jigglypuff if this was true, and Jigglypuff nodded, confirming that Jigglypuff did actually like being chased by Mitch, and it had grown attached to him, and that's why it was sad. It was sad that Mitch had left it. Lisa then begged her dad if she could have Jigglypuff, and her dad confirmed this, saying he was okay with it, so Lisa ran up and hugged it, and Jigglypuff seemed pretty happy with this. So Mitch simply made sure that it really did want to join the family, and Jigglypuff nodded, making Lisa celebrate in happiness that she finally had a Jigglypuff. Ash and the gang were very happy that this filler episode wasn't for nothing. They at least did a good deed with helping Lisa get a Jigglypuff. And May happily went up to Lisa and asked her how she liked Jigglypuff, and Lisa confirmed that she loved it, as Loudred joined in, and Loudred, and Jigglypuff, and Lisa all played together, so Lisa technically got 2 birthday presents. Lisa then asked Jigglypuff to sing for all of them, which startled everyone, as they knew that this meant they would be put to sleep. And sure enough, as Jigglypuff started singing, everyone fell asleep. Although, as Ash was falling asleep, he at least joked that by the time they woke up to continue on their journey to the battle arena, they would at least be well rested.